This video is my most worn fragrances for August. As always, there will be a corresponding blog post that'll go up on my website. It will be linked below, and there you can get the full rundown of everything that I wore, everything that I recorded wearing in the month of August. The first fragrance that I'm going to talk about, I wore 4 times, and this is Unue by Jeroboam. So stunning, and it's so easy to wear, and it lasts all day long. It's a really gorgeous, musky sort of sandalwood fragrance. There's ylang-ylang in here and jasmine. It's weird. It kind of leans sort of beachy, but it doesn't smell like suntan lotion in any way, shape or form. But because of the way it sort of reminds me of the beach or a tropical location, because there's also a hint of pineapple in here, which I wouldn't classify this as a fruity perfume by any means, but the pineapple together with the sandalwood and the florals just gives it this sort of tropical leaning bent to it. But consequently, because the sandalwood in here and the white florals are so creamy as well, it sort of, my mind automatically goes to coconut. I feel like there's coconut in here, but there is no coconut listed. But it's just, it does remind me of that kind of scent profile, even though it doesn't actually smell like coconut and it doesn't actually smell like a suntan lotion. But it's just, there's such a strong association between these tropical white florals and the sandalwood and that pineapple note that I think my brain just automatically, it's like it fills in the gap. Not that I'm suggesting there's a gap or there's anything missing from this perfume, because there absolutely is not. It is just absolutely beautiful. And as I said, it's so easy to wear and it feels very elegant and sophisticated and welcoming. You know, if you're wearing this, I feel like people would feel safe and comfortable with you. You know, it's just, it's very calming and welcoming. Anyway, so that is Unue. I wore it 4 times. I absolutely love it. Jeroboam is suddenly just becoming one of those perfume houses for me that I'm really appreciating everything of theirs that comes past my nose, even though there's not much that I actually have access to sniff. There is a perfumery in Australia that sells Jeroboam fragrances, but it's hard to sniff them because they're in a different city and I can't get samples. So, all right, so the next one I'll skip over very quickly because it has literally been in the last 2 videos. It's Elae by Trudon. I wore this 4 times in the month of August, and yep, still absolutely loving it. It's at the same time fresh and zingy. It has a little bit of a kind of white linen, fresh white linen vibe to it, but it doesn't smell like laundry detergent, at least not to me. So it's just, it's so good. It's so good. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore because literally, I mean, I filmed all these videos in quick succession today. So I feel like I've just spent a couple of hours just talking about this perfume today alone. But if this is the first time you have stumbled across one of my videos and you want to know more about this, then I will link the other videos where I've just talked about this in more detail so that you can get a better feel for it. But I don't want to repeat myself again today. So that is Elae by Trudon. I wore it 4 times. The next fragrance I wore 4 times is Coromandel by Chanel. And I have this massive 200 milliliter bottle of it. If you missed my earlier videos where I talked about acquiring this, I didn't, buy this retail. And the reason I got the big bottle is not because I feel like I need to buy massive big bottles, but just because this was what was for sale on the Facebook group. I bought it secondhand off somebody else for a very, very good price. In fact, less than what I would pay for a new 75 ml bottle now. So I couldn't pass it up, and it had been on my wish list for quite some time. This is a fantastic woody amber scent. It's heavy on patchouli to my nose, quite a bit of iris as well. There is apparently a white chocolate note in here. I did a video a couple of years ago now where I compared the new eau de parfum to the old eau de toilette. And I feel like the white chocolate note is more of a white chocolate note in the old Eau de Toilette formulation. But if you're interested, I will try and find that and link it here. It's quite, as I said, I filmed it quite a long time ago, so I can't attest to the quality of the video footage or how well I organised my thoughts, but I can't really attest to the quality of how well I organise my thoughts these days either. But suffice to say, this is a really standout woody perfume in my wardrobe. It's quite unlike most of the other woody ambery fragrances that I gravitate towards, and I'm very glad to have it. It's very cozy, it's quite dry and arguably a little bit dusty, and I just love that about it. So that is Coromandel by Chanel, the Eau de Parfum, and I wore it 4 times. And next up is a perfume that is very new to my wardrobe, and this is Mystic Bliss by Goldfield and Banks. So I interviewed Dimitri Weber from Goldfield and Banks several months ago now, and I only recently posted the interview on my YouTube channel. You can go check that out if you like. I apologise for the quality. I was filming that over Zoom. I just cannot tell you what a delight it was to speak with Dimitri. I've been wanting to kind of interview him for quite some time. I remember back in 2019, I bought a couple of bottles from Goldfield and Banks. I bought a bottle of white sandalwood and a bottle of wood infusion. And I was really, really keen at that time to try the desert rosewood, but I didn't want to buy a bottle of it because I didn't want to blind buy it. And so I rang them, and I was speaking to somebody and they were saying, oh, well, we don't sell travel sizes or even, they didn't even have samples at that stage. But he said, oh, it's fine, I'll just make you up a 10 ml travel size. And I thought, oh, that's really lovely. And it wasn't until sort of the end of the phone call that I realised I was actually speaking with Dimitri, and he was just so delightful and so pleasant to speak to. And I had the exact same experience when I interviewed him. He's just so kind and gentle, you know. And I'm sure, you know, I don't know why I'm surprised. I guess I just figured that somebody as busy as he is, I would expect to feel more rushed when speaking to him, but he obviously loves people and he has time for people. So I just had a really great time speaking to him. Anyway, he did mention this perfume in that interview, even though that interview had nothing to do with this release. And then I received an invite to attend the launch event, which was down in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. And so I decided to go down. I had a reason to go to Sydney for work anyway, and I just rearranged my schedule to align those things with the launch event so that I could attend. And I just had a really great time. It was super fun to just go and meet some other people, I guess, in the industry and discover this beautiful perfume. So this is not what I expected based on the description or what I had known of the description. All I knew about this perfume was what he had talked about in the interview that I did with him. And he was talking about this, you know, this quinzia note and this aromatic sort of floral kind of element that it brings to the fragrance. And I was expecting this to be, I guess, an aromatic freshie. And it is aromatic and there is a fresh element to it, but it's also got a caramel note in it, which when I turned up to the launch event and saw the caramel note there, I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to go because I'm not typically a caramel fan. But I have really, really liked this. I feel like the caramel it's done really well. It's really nicely balanced in here. It's not overdone. It's not too gourmand, although it does have a gourmand facet to it. It's still very much an aromatic, sort of spicy, woody perfume with some floral nuances, but you do have that just hint of gourmand, that hint of caramel. It has really great lasting power as well if you care about that kind of thing. By way of example, 3 days ago, I took Poppy for a walk and I spritzed this on my wrists, and it rubbed off my wrists onto the jumper that I was wearing on that walk. And then this morning, I went to put that jumper back on and I could not only still smell it, But after wearing that jumper for a couple of hours this morning, I took it off and then I could smell the perfume on my wrist. So it had transferred from my wrist to the jumper and then from my jumper back to my wrist on a completely different day. So it's got some staying power, that's for sure. It's a really beautiful perfume. I did get this bottle for free, obviously, at their launch. So full disclaimer, I did not purchase this, but I would purchase this if I hadn't been gifted this bottle. So that is Mystic Bliss by Goldfield and Banks. I wore it 5 times in the month of August, which is actually quite a lot given that I was only given the bottle on the 22nd of August. So I wore it 5 times in a week. And then finally, the perfume that I wore the most in the month of August is Iris Malikhan by Maison Crivelli. I haven't spoken about this one for a while. This has been sort of lurking in the back of my wardrobe for a couple of years, and I dug it back out and I have been absolutely loving it. I've got a bit of a thing for it at the moment, actually. I just kind of want to wear it all the time. So I wore this 7 times. Did I say that already? If I didn't, then yeah, I wore it 7 times. This perfume has really changed for me over time. I'm not saying that the perfume itself has changed. I'm saying that how I perceive this perfume when I wear it has changed over time. I used to think that this perfume was really chocolatey, and I think that partly comes from, you know, the leathery tones that are in here, and there's probably a bit of patchouli as well. But actually it doesn't come across as chocolatey to me anymore. And that kind of put me off in a way, that sort of dark, chocolatey aspect. But now when I wear it, I don't really get that for a start. It doesn't come across as chocolatey to me anymore. Maybe there's a hint still, but it's got this, you have this orris in there that is, I think, more leathery leaning than how orris traditionally comes off in other perfumes. So already straight out of the gate, it's kind of darker. But even though it's a very strong fragrance, it doesn't sit super heavy on the skin. There is a translucency about this perfume. There is a juiciness about it. There's also a green element as well that just gives the impression of green vegetation being crushed underfoot. And I don't want to emphasize that too much, because whilst that's there, it's not the dominant tone to this perfume. I mean, this is not a dominant green perfume really, but there's just this beautiful leathery, buttery, powdery orris that's present. Some florals in there. Goodness knows what florals are in here, but there's obviously some florals. It's a little bit green. It's a little bit fresh. I think there is a cypress note in here, if I remember correctly. I don't necessarily get it as cypress, although yes, when I've got cypress in my brain, yes, I can smell it, but it's just, it comes off as a freshness more than me being able to say that's definitely a piney sort of cypress note. It's spicy, and then there's a sweetness in there as well. So it's just unlike any other orris perfume I've ever smelled. And I think this is one of those ones I think you do need to put it on skin to really, particularly to really appreciate that orris, because I think when you spritz it on paper, you get more of the other elements coming forward, whereas when it's on your skin, you do get that orris and the vanilla and that leathery tone. So I just spritzed a little bit on my skin a couple of minutes ago, and I'm getting quite a lot of vanilla at this point. But again, it doesn't come off as being too sweet. But I'm really, really loving now that my brain or my nose has switched on to the greener, fresher elements of this perfume. I'm just absolutely enamored with it. So I have been wearing this a lot, and I think I'll be wearing it even more in the days and weeks to come. I'm really besotted with it at the moment. And because it's so interesting and so different to other things in my wardrobe, I'm kind of wanting, it's like a puzzle, and I want to solve the puzzle. So that is Iris Malikhan by Maison Crivelli. Absolutely fantastic green leathery orris perfume. Fantastic. Just love it. All right. So I do have a couple of other little honourable mentions. The first one that I'm going to talk about is I wore the Guidance body lotion by Amouage a lot over the course of the last month. I actually only picked this up last month, actually. When my sister was visiting, we went into the perfumery and this is what I picked up. This is fantastic for anyone who really loved the Guidance profile but just couldn't wear it because it was too much, too strong. This definitely does smell like Guidance, but it's just a little bit softer in its scent bubble. So it's just not as bombastic as the original, as the Guidance perfume. So again, if you enjoyed the Guidance profile but you just couldn't wear the perfume because it's too strong, maybe give this a go, because I can wear this to bed. I just love it that much. I think it's great. So that is the Guidance body lotion. In terms of samples, I had this little sample of Nomades, Roots Nomades by Ojar. Ojar is a brand I haven't really heard much about, although I think somebody just posted something about them on a video the other day. I don't even know how I got this sample. It must have just come with another perfume purchase. And I've had it for a while. It's been sitting on my dresser in this little box, and I kept telling myself I was going to get around to it. And because I had a feeling it was a Middle Eastern brand, I was a little bit hesitant, just because, Middle Eastern fragrances tend to be fairly bombastic and they usually have oud, and, I just wasn't rushing to try it, put it that way. Anyway, I tried it a couple of weeks ago and I actually really liked it. And funnily enough, there was something about this that reminded me a little bit of Iris Malikhan. I don't know what. I think it's probably this fragrance, Roots Nomades, is meant to be, I think, a leathery perfume, and it is, but it's also aromatic. And I think that's where the similarities lie. They don't smell the same by any means, but there is just something in the Ojar that is reminiscent of the Crivelli to me. One made me think of the other, put it that way. So I actually quite enjoyed this. It is not as sweet as Iris Malikhan either, but it wears quite green and aromatic on my skin. There is a leatheriness there, yes, but I feel like I get more of the green aromatic tones. So I actually really enjoyed wearing this sample, and I still have obviously a bit of it left, so I'm going to continue to wear it. Unfortunately, it's not a spray atomizer, it's like a dabber, so that's why I haven't really gravitated towards it that much. I also dug out a sample of Tobacolor by Dior, Maison Christian Dior. This is a sample that my friend Chrissy sent to me, and I really, really like this. It is just so comforting for the cold weather. It's that tobacco has that beautiful sort of furry, fuzzy element to it. If you liked Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, but you found the clove too overbearing, you found it too sweet and syrupy, smelling this now, I now understand where that tobacco sits in Tobacco Vanille. Because for me, that one always, it felt like it was being dominated by all of these other elements, and the tobacco was there, but it just wasn't front and center to me. Whereas this one is more about the tobacco, and I feel like the tobacco in here is kind of similar to what it was in the Tom Ford. So it's just not as sweet, it's not as syrupy, it's very comforting, and it's just, as I said, it's got that really cozy kind of furry, fuzzy feel to it, and I've been really loving that. So I'm enjoying that sample. I also, in the month of August, picked up a bottle of Imitation Woman by Amouage. I hunted around for an older style bottle and my battery's about to die, so I better change that. Apologies, the perspective has probably changed a little bit because I had to move the camera, but this is Imitation Woman by Amouage. So I picked up a sample of this from a friend in the fragrance community a little while back, and I've been wearing the sample and I just became so enamored with this. It's just so interesting to me. It's got this amazing blackcurrant note in the opening, which I'm not normally a huge fan of blackcurrant in perfumery, but there is just something about what this does in this perfume. It's juicy but dark and green and spiky, and I just absolutely love it. It's not going to be for everybody. I know some people absolutely really don't like this perfume at all, but I really love it. So that is a new bottle that I picked up in the month of August. I just bought a secondhand partial off somebody, and I'm really, really loving it. I also did dig out my Galimard Discovery set perfumes. These I bought in France last year when we were there for our honeymoon, and our wedding, come to think of it. And I recently wore this one, which is called Pêle-Mêle. Look, it was okay. It was okay. I think the one out of this whole box, the one that I really, really liked the most was this one, which was Pêle-Mêle. But unfortunately, this leaked on the way home. And by the time I got home, I literally had 2 drops and I had enough to sort of spritz a little bit on my hand, and that was it. So I'm very sad about that. So I wore this one Pêle-Mêle for the gym a few days ago or a couple of weeks ago. It's pleasant enough. It's kind of a shampoo-y sort of floral to me. It's nice enough for the gym, but it certainly wasn't, you know, blowing my mind or anything like that. I think it's got a peach note. There's sort of a green tea, fresh element to it, and it's kind of musky in the base. It smells like shampoo to me. So it's nice if you're going to wear it to the gym because you smell clean and fresh, but it's not very exciting to me, but it's pleasant enough. And then finally, the last sort of honourable mention or sort of notable mention is this one. It's called Juice by Commodity. I have actually talked about this in another video where I was talking about fruity perfumes. This was sent to me in PR, so full disclosure about that. I actually don't mind wearing this. Even though fruity perfumes are not typically my type of perfume, I enjoyed wearing this one. I get quite a lot of fruit in here. A lot of people who are reviewing this are saying that, you know, they expected it to be juicier and fruitier. I don't know what they're smelling, but I definitely get juicy sort of fruit in this perfume. Maybe it's just that because I don't typically wear fruity sort of perfumes that maybe I'm a little bit more attuned to the fruit that's in here. It definitely does have a woody element to it. So I do acknowledge that it's not just fruit and it's not just sort of juicy, sweet fruit in here. The dry down is quite woody, and the woody elements in here are quite dark. I think there's a bit of patchouli in here actually. Maybe that's why I like it in terms of a juicy, fruity perfume. Even though it's fun to wear, there is an element in here that, I don't know, gives it a little bit of more of a grown-up feel to it. So I quite liked wearing this. Would I buy this for myself if it hadn't been sent to me in PR? Probably not. But again, that's just because you know, fruity perfumes are not really my vibe. But yeah, I actually think this is kind of a nice release, actually. To release a perfume, a fruity perfume that I quite enjoy wearing, I think is a feat. So well done, Commodity. I quite enjoyed it. And if you're interested to know a little bit more about what other fruity perfumes I would wear, including this one, I will provide a link to that video below. So feel free to go check that one out. All right, well, that wraps up finally my most worn list for August. And that brings me up to date with my most worn lists. So if you enjoyed this, please do give this a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already. I would really appreciate it. And I will, of course, link the blog post down below as well, which will give you the full rundown of all the perfumes I wore in the month of August. Thank you so much for joining me and for all of your support. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.